Thank you, Mr. President. Before I start with what I was going to say, I want to address a few things that have been said just in the past few minutes. Because it is about this bill, but these remarks were said on the floor, and I feel it is important to address them. To act as if members of the minority are bringing up out of whole cloth us versus them, rural versus metro, as if this has never been brought up before, is beyond dishonest. And I know Senator Benson said earlier that she is not crazy about us talking about campaign materials, but we have to acknowledge that the dialogue about these issues has gone on and on and on, and put us into this unhealthy discussion about us versus them. What's mine is mine, what yours is I don't care about. That is not who we are as Minnesotans. And we here in this chamber should aspire to better than that. I have the great privilege of representing Senate District 53, which I think is an interesting case study relevant to Senate File 749. I represent the city of Woodbury. I represent Landfall. I represent Southern Oakdale and South Maplewood. They're all very different. Each of them is very different. And when I look across 67 desks in this chamber, and I think about the 67 individuals who would be sitting here if we could all be sitting here, we each represent collections of communities that are very different from each other's. It happens in the case of my district, Woodbury, which is often a surprise to people to hear that Woodbury is now the 8th largest city in the state of Minnesota, doesn't get a penny of LGA. Oakdale gets a little, and South Maplewood gets a fair amount. Maplewood does. It's interesting when you think about this issue of mutual aid, and I'm so glad we've had a conversation about it, because mutual aid is who Minnesota is. It is what we're about. It is what we do well. Anytime I'm driving around Woodbury or parts of Washington County and you run across some sort of public emergency and there are fire trucks available or police vehicles and ambulances, whatever, it's never just the city of Woodbury. There's always somebody from Cottage Grove there, or there's somebody from Oakdale there. When you think about the makeup of my district, South Maplewood, this is always a sort of a funny conversation for people. The city of Maplewood, if you look at it on a map, is really strange. There's a big chunk of it in the northeast metro that is represented by Senator Uyghur. And then there's this skinny little panhandle of South Maplewood that drops down several miles. It's only 1 mile wide. And on the west side of it is St. Paul, and on the east side of it is Woodbury. And you want to talk about mutual aid? To service those communities, they work together seamlessly every single day of the week. St. Paul, Maplewood, Woodbury, 2 different counties, 3 different cities, all to make sure that we're taking care of the people who live in that area. Because fundamentally, we are Minnesotans first. And that's what we do. Senate File 749 has a bunch of problems. And that is why we have heard over and over again that all of the city organizations and the Association of Minnesota Counties oppose it, because they understand what's at risk here. They have all said that they have not been able to find significant examples of unpaid bills or unresolved disputes between cities. Senator Dziedzic has talked about that there is a bill that was sent forward from Anoka that is being discussed and considered. It is not unpaid. It is still in action within a reasonable timeline. This is not a big problem that is out there that is needing this bill in this moment. But what does this bill do? It adds bureaucracy to deal with it. It fundamentally interferes with our local communities' ability to do what they need to do to serve their communities. It fundamentally interferes with funding for public safety, law enforcement, fire, and other emergency services. It fundamentally interferes with the ability of local governments to lower property taxes, which is very important to the members of our communities. If you think about a small town that, God forbid, in the coming year has a tornado, and they're not able to, and the neighboring communities come to their aid in an emergency situation, and they're not able to pay that bill right away, you know, this bill could potentially cause their LGA to be held back in order to pay for those things, which means that town now may have one less law enforcement officer the following year. Or they may have to shut their library down a couple days a week, because that's what these funds are used for. Members, this bill is wrong for Minnesota. This is not who we are. When I listen to Minnesotans in my community and around the state talk about what they want us to be doing when we are in this chamber, they want us to be working together, not this us against them back and forth. And they want us as local leaders and state leaders to work together as well, which is what the amendment that Senator Murphy brought up forward would have done as an alternative. It would have brought people together to talk and to find solutions together. But no, we're gonna pursue this one. This has not been a healthy discussion, and I'm so disappointed in that, because we can do so much better. We should be listening to each other and working together. We should take care of each other. It's what Minnesotans do. Here we are in this really cold weather. I'm sure Minnesotans around this state are taking care of their neighbors' driveways and mail and deliveries and dogs in this time, because it's what we do. We show up with a hot dish when there's been a death in the family, because it's what we do. It's who we are. Senator Dibble mentioned the hearings that were held last summer by Senator Newman and Senator Limmer, where we talked a lot about what happened in the metro, because let's be clear, what happened last year was not just in Minneapolis. It was also in St. Paul, and it was right across the street from my district, literally right across the street from my district. The thing I most remember, the thing that will stick with me forever from those hearings, was when Colonel Matt Langer of the State Patrol testified. And he talked about when they put out the call around the state, and that sheriff's offices from all corners dropped everything to help. Mr. Rogers says when there's something scary going on, look for the helpers. And that's what Minnesotans did in that occasion. That's what we do. That's what we hopefully always will do. But Senate File 749, this bill before us, is the opposite of who we are and the opposite of what we do. And members, I would encourage a no vote on this bill.